Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to take a quick look at using IEnumerator to control the customer aspect of a time management food service game. I have an old series from a few years ago and someone was saying that they're having trouble controlling the customer. So basically making them be more upset over time, want to leave a smaller tip, and then just storming off based on how long it takes to serve them their meal. Now, I'm not going to go into the food service aspect. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how to use IEnumerator to have events happen over time. That way it's consistent. So whenever the customer shows up, you have X amount of seconds to be able to prepare the food. And then after a certain amount of time, the tip they leave you is going to be less. Their image changes to show that they're upset, so on and so forth. Okay, so all we have in the image so far is just a 2D image. This is just meant to be the food counter. Doesn't really have to be here for this demo, but it's there. I put it at ordering layer 1, and then the customers will be at order layer 0. That way this is in front of them and they're behind it. So let's go ahead and start to make our customer. So this is just this image stretched and the color changed. And then these are the two images that are going to make up the client. Basically, the first one, their face is going to be smiling, and the next one, they're kind of looking bored. And then you just add in more and more images. So we take the first one, we just drag it into the scene, and it creates a new object. So let's just call this customer. And you can see they're smiling. So, and they're going to default to ordering layer 0. So like I said, that puts them behind the counter, and you can position this how you want them. If you want them to be a little bit closer, whatever. And the reason why she has a scythe isn't because she's a violent customer, it's because it's from a different game. Okay, so what we want to do, we're going to attach a script to the customer, and we're going to use IEnumerator to control those various things that we talked about. So let's right click, create, C#, and we'll just call this customer con, so customer control. We click on our customer, we put on the script, and see it's saying we open this up. You can get rid of the line with the double / because that's a remark statement, meaning that it is not executed. And I'm going to do this much quicker than what I normally do. This is more of a intermediate tutorial because, again, since I'm not making the game from the ground up, you're going to have to insert this into your application, your game as you're working on it. Okay, so we need a couple variables. So we're going to do public sprite, and it's going to be mood 2. I'm only doing a second mood. You could do mood 3, mood 4, so they go from happy to maybe less happy to bored to angry. But once I show you one, it's just rinse and repeat. And now this one will be, so public sprite, and then you can call it whatever you want to represent the second mood they're going to be. So it's a sprite image. The second thing that we're going to do is we're adding a float. So this is going to be the tip. So we're going to make this be, and this could be public or private, either way. Let's actually make it private because when you make it public, there's issues with changing it via code. So we'll just make this private. So private float, and this will be, we'll just call this tip amount. And maybe it starts at $5. Now, since we want this timer to begin as soon as the customer spawns, as soon as they're instantiated, we want to put the starting the coroutine right in the start section because this happens once when the object is instantiated. This happens every frame. So we'll put it here. So we'll do, actually, let's do start coroutine. And then the reason why I'm doing this first, typically you make the coroutine first and then you say start coroutine and it'll recognize the name you make. But if I don't do it in this order, I'm going to forget. So I plan on calling the coroutine mood con, so mood control, and then another set of parentheses. So start coroutine parentheses mood con or whatever the name. Sorry, that should be a semicolon. So start coroutine parentheses, the name of the coroutine that you're going to make, another set of parentheses, close, semicolon. So now you have to make that. So IEnumerator, And you'll see that once I type this, that line goes away and it's going to no longer dislike. So typically, like I said, you would make this first, but I will forget. 10 out of 10 times I'll forget to do the start coroutine if I don't do that first. And then we put in yield, return, new, wait 4 seconds. Again, I'm not going to explain every little bit. Just know that this sentence, effectively, the one thing it does is it makes everything after it wait a period of time measured in seconds. So I don't want you to have to wait very long. We'll just have it be 4 seconds and then something will happen. Well, over here, you can see this is the inspector. So the customer is selected and there's a sprite renderer. And then there's a sprite. So what we're going to do, we're going to drill down through sprite renderer to change that. So get component. And again, saying get component gets a component of the object the script is attached to. The script is attached to the customer object. So get component sprite renderer dot sprite. And it's going to be set equal to mood 2. And then we're also going to say reduce the tip. So tip amount minus equals, say, 1. Then it's really just rinse and repeat. We'll have them wait another period of time. It doesn't have to be the same because maybe the first period of time is actually like a minute, and then the second increment will only be 30, and then 15, and that is their mood deteriorates quicker and quicker. That's game balance. I'm not going to get into that here. Just want you to let you know that this number I'm choosing here is completely arbitrary. It's basically just so you don't have to sit around for a very long time. So if you had another image, then you do mood 3, mood 4, and like I said, you would have to declare those up there. So it's already mood 2. I'll remark this out just so you know that it would have to be whatever the next one is. And again, like I said, up here you'd have public sprite mood 3, and this name would correspond to the new one you added up there. And again, you'd reduce the tip amount, and it's just rinse and repeat. So what we're going to do, we'll just do this one more time again so you don't have to wait too long. And what we're going to do is we're going to have the customer just exit stage right. So to do that, to have them have motion, we need to add a rigid body. So we'll come back to the customer object. We'll do add component. We'll do physics 2D, and we will do rigid body 2D. Let's see, gravity scale will be 0. That should be it. You might have to add a box collider if you're going to click on the customer. Like, do you put the food in front of them or do you actually click on them? So just so you know, you might have to do a box collider, add a box collider to them to make them clickable. Again, I'm not going to get into all that because this is just the time management aspect. Okay, so now that there's a rigid body, so we waited 4 seconds and then changed the sprite and reduced the tip amount. Waited 4 seconds, would change the sprite again. If there's another sprite, change the tip amount, rinse and repeat. And what we'll do is this one actually, we won't do the sprite. We're just going to have them exit. So now that it has a rigid body, we can select that. And again, it has to match. So I chose rigid body 2D. So I have to say rigid body 2D. And then what are we going to do? We're going to do new vector 2. Oops, sorry. So velocity. So get component rigid body velocity. And it's a vector 2 because there's only x and y because it's 2 dimensions. And we're going to have them say move -3. So that's 3 unity units per second. How big is a unity unit? Well, basically you figure that out by using unity. It doesn't make any sense for me to say it because it's not an actual distance. It all depends, how far, how close you're zoomed into the image. So it moves 3 unity units per second horizontally that'll have them actually go to the left since it's a negative. Doesn't matter, it can be left or right. You can have them leave whatever direction you want. They're not going to travel up unless you want them to be like angelic or negative because you want them to be demonic. So presumably they're just going to travel left or right. So if you want them to travel off the right of the screen, it'd be positive. If you want it to be negative, travel to the left, then it'd be negative. And then what we would do is, I think that would do it. So let's just think this through. So let's save this. The little asterisks tell you that it's not saved. So we create the second image. We have a tip amount at 5. We start the mood control. We wait 4 seconds. We change the mood. We reduce the tip. Wait 4 seconds. Change the mood again if it wasn't remarked out. Change the tip again. Wait 4 seconds. Set the tip to 0 and they leave. This could actually have a few more stages. Again, I'm just trying to show you the basics because it's rinse and repeat. It's the same thing over and over again until you actually get them to leave. So I haven't forgotten anything. That should do it for that bit of the code. So let's give it a run. And actually, I probably should have put in the debug log so we could see the tip change. Oh, you know I did? Sorry about that. I forgot to put the second image on them. That tells me that the code is working, though, because they went to blank. So remember how I did the script and I said mood 2? You actually have to drag and drop it over here. So my apologies. That was a very much an immature mistake, but I'll leave it in because it happens. People forget to do these things. So if it happens to you, it's very common that a variable is created and then people forget to assign the object to it. So they're happy. Now they're not happy. Doesn't look like, there we go. I was going to say, didn't look like they left, but they did. So the delay must have just been longer than I thought. So, oh, I know why, because after the first change, the only thing that changed the second time was the tip. And since it wasn't being displayed, we couldn't tell. So let's just do, let's add debug.log. I always recommend before you add a lot of functionality to test it, but since I've done this before, I was pretty certain this was going to work right, minus any, mistakes, oversights. So we'll just do tip amount. So now we'll see the tip amount changing. So we'll put it there. We'll put it there. And we can put it there too. And through is kind of slow. We'll make it 4. Again, that's more of an aesthetic rather than game balance issue because once they've left, that's it. They're leaving. So there we go. Change to 4. You can see it in the lower left corner here. Change to 3. And then they leave. So that's the basics of the time management aspect. You can create a separate game flow script that basically is how you would instantiate this. So you most likely wouldn't leave this in the scene. What you do is you would take this game object, drag it into the asset area, and you've created what's known as a prefab. Now, rather than just existing in this one scene, you can now instantiate this in any scene as many times as you want. So there's many different reasons why you would instantiate something. Like maybe there's an explosion. Well, the explosion isn't on the screen until you need it, and so you'd instantiate the particle system. If you have something that has some kind of projectile, so you have a gun or whatever, then you would have those bullets be instantiated. If you actually draw bullets, a lot of games don't. But if you want a projectile to be actually drawn, the projectile itself would be a prefab. So we'll delete this from the scene and we'll just do that one last step. So we'll just right click. Actually, let's just do game object, create empty. We'll call this GM. Calling it GM does not do anything special. That's just you telling yourself that you're using this object as a game master. We'll right click, create C#, and we'll call this game flow. Go to GM, put on the script, and then at the moment, the sole purpose of this will be to instantiate that object. So this coding is going to look really similar. So what we're going to do, we do public transform because we want the game object. And we're going to do public transform, and it will be, say, customer 1 because you'd have different prefabs for the different customers. Now, what we want is we want to instantiate this after a certain amount of time has passed. So again, we're going to put this in the start section because we want the timer to start as soon as this object is instantiated. This object gets instantiated as soon as the scene is instantiated, as soon as the scene is loaded, because it's already in the scene. So again, we're going to do this a little bit out of order. We're going to put in start coroutine because as you see, I am forgetful. So start coroutine, and I plan on naming the coroutine spawn customer. So if we now come down here and do IEnumerator, and just to be clear, IEnumerator is outside of start. It's outside of update. It's not part of those. And this will not show in the list because creating the IEnumerator routine, coroutine, is what puts it into the list in the first place. So if you do this first, then it would show up here when you start typing. Okay, so we're going to, again, do yield return new, wait 4 seconds, and we don't want you to wait long. We'll just do a 2-second delay, and then we will do instantiate. So there's a few ways to do instantiate. We're going to take a super simple way. So with instantiate, there's 3 arguments: what is being instantiated, where it's being instantiated, and the rotation of that which is being instantiated. Well, all those things we already have in this. We put it in the center of screen. That's where we want it to instantiate. So we can use its instantiation. We already like the rotation, so we can use its rotation. So even though there's 3 arguments, you can just do this. So that's the object that we want instantiated. So typically, you need all 3 arguments, but because you're using the other 2 arguments are the values, the default values of the prefab, then you don't have to declare it. You could do, it would be customer 1 dot position, customer 1 dot rotation. So you can do it either way. The only problem is when you do it with just this argument, you need to make sure that these are also what you want. If you don't, then you have to bang these out. So that instantiates the customer, and we're almost done. We'll click on GM. So there's the customer variable. We'll take our prefab, put it there. If I didn't forget anything, after just whatever I chose, 2 seconds, the object should instantiate. There we go. Our customer shows up. And again, all that kicks in that we showed up a few minutes ago because it's already attached to the customer object, the customer prefab, and they leave. So rather than just them appear, you could have them slide into the scene. So you'd actually have them, say, appear off here. Okay, and then what you would do is in the start section, you would do the reverse of this. So you would do a vector 2, so as they slide onto the screen and then stop after a certain amount of time, but I'm not going to get into all that. Though this was just about handling the basic time management functionality, and you can just take this and expand on it. Like as far as game flow, this instantiates one customer and then stops. So clearly you'd want this to keep cycling. So what you'd actually do is you want to make this recursive. You want it to go back to the beginning of itself. So you want IEnumerator to keep cycling through over and over again. Now, only problem with this, and again, that's why I'm trying not to go too in depth, is you then have to put in like your if statements to see how many customers are already on the screen. If there's already the max amount, then you wouldn't instantiate, but this is how you would perpetuate this. This is how it would run in perpetuity, if I pronounce that correct. Because the final thing spawn customer is saying is run spawn customer all over again. So just do that. And again, I'm just remarking that out. So that's it. So we only actually used about 9 lines of code or so. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you use that, 5, 6, 7. Oh, actually, there's a few more here than 9. So whatever. 20-ish lines of code, and yet you just very broad strokes. You have the routine for spawning the client and the routine to control the mood of the customer. You would need to put in a separate randomization as far as what they want. But again, I'm not going to do that because that's really dependent upon what you're doing. Is it a hot dog with fries and a soda, or is it a hamburger with ketchup and mayonnaise, or whatever? I can't go into all those variations because this isn't part of a cooking game. This is just showing you how you'd go about approaching it. So I hope that you found this helpful, and for the person who requested this, I hope this answers their question. The problem is the project they're asking about is years old, and it's on a much older version of Unity, which means I'd have to start from scratch. I probably could copy and paste the code, and I probably could copy some of the objects over if I even had the project, but it's so old, I don't think I can even find that project. That was something like 2 computers ago. So I think that's about it. If you have any questions, just let me know, and I hope you found this useful. And please enjoy the rest of your day.